I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, spilling my guts on a subreddit about some disaster that I thought was a fairy tale just a week ago. Honestly, I still can't believe I'm even doing this, but I need to get it out somewhere. Maybe it'll help, or maybe it'll just make me feel worse. But either way, I've got to tell someone. It all started on our wedding anniversary. Seemed like any other day at first. My wife, Lisa, had decorated the house with those stupid little candles and fairy lights she loves. The smell of roasted chicken filled the air. We planned a quiet night, just us, no family or friends. I was excited, honestly. It's rare we get time like that. We'd been together 10 years, and I'd finally started to think maybe we had some kind of future. Maybe I'd married the right girl after all, but something felt off. I can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe it was her nervous energy, or the way she kept glancing at her phone every few minutes. I didn't think much of it at first. I was too caught up in thinking about the future, about what kind of gift I should get her next year, or how I'd finally get her to open up about her dreams. The night was perfect until it was. We sat down to eat, and she suddenly excused herself to the bathroom. That's when I noticed her phone buzzing on the table. I've never been the guy to check a partner's phone, never. But that night something snapped. Curiosity, maybe, or just a gut feeling. I reached out, grabbed her phone. The screen lit up with a message preview from someone I didn't recognize. "Can't wait to see you tonight." My stomach dropped. My fingers trembled as I unlocked her phone. The message was from someone named Mark. I scrolled further. There were dozens of texts, flirty, intimate, downright disgusting. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My mind spun. Everything I thought I knew about her, about us. It was all crashing down in a flood of betrayal. I kept scrolling until I found a folder, tucked away in her messages, hidden behind another app. I opened it and saw photos, naked photos, intimate texts, promises made in secret. My hands went cold. My heart hammered so loud I thought it would burst out of my chest. She had been lying to my face all along, hiding her secret life right under my nose. I stared at the screen, stunned, feeling like my world was crumbling piece by piece. Not just because she cheated, though that stung worse than anything. I felt betrayed by the person I trusted most. I got up sharply, knocking over my chair. "What the hell is this?" I demanded, voice shaking. She froze, her face draining of color. "Who is Mark?" I pressed, voice rising. Her eyes flickered, and then she looked away. Silence stretched long enough to make my stomach churn. I don't know what you're talking about," she finally whispered, but her trembling hands told me everything I needed to know. The proof was right there on her phone. I held it out, trembling myself now, feeling a mixture of rage and heartbreak. That night I didn't sleep. I stayed up staring at that screen, thinking about what this meant. Everything I'd believed in was a lie. That's when I started planning how to get even, how to turn her secret into my weapon. I knew I couldn't just walk away. I had to make her feel how much she'd hurt me, how much she'd betrayed everything we built. I didn't want some fiery blow-up or some dramatic scene. I wanted her to realize she'd lost control of the game. I'd sit back, watch her suffer, and then walk away with everything she'd taken from me. I was furious, but I also felt a strange clarity. I knew I had to play this right, to make her pay for every lie, every secret, every betrayal. And I'd do it quietly, methodically. I closed her phone, my fingers trembling again. I looked out the window, the night dark and silent outside, and realized I had all the pieces I needed now. The game was on. I just had to wait for her to realize she'd crossed a line she couldn't come back from. And when she did, that's when my revenge would start. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding head and a stomach twisted in knots. My mind kept circling back to that folder on her phone, to the images, the words, everything I'd uncovered. I never thought I'd feel this way, so raw and furious over something so deeply personal. But there I was, replaying the scene in my head again and again as if I could will the pain away. Spoiler, I couldn't. Lisa was still asleep, her breathing slow and even. She looked innocent, peaceful even, but I saw through that facade now. She'd been living a double life, one I'd never suspected, and that thought made my skin crawl. I needed a plan. I needed to get ahead, to make her feel what I was feeling: betrayal, humiliation, loss. I waited until she woke up. When she finally stretched and looked at me, her eyes flicked with a flicker of guilt I didn't bother hiding. I kept my expression cold, distant. I didn't want her to see the storm brewing inside me just yet. "Morning," she mumbled, voice soft. "Morning," I said flatly. My voice was steady, but my mind was racing. I reached for my coffee, taking a slow sip, then looked her straight in the eyes. "We need to talk." She hesitated, then sat up, a little defensive. "About what?" "About last night," I said. "About the messages, about you hiding things from me." My voice was calm but firm. "I want to know everything now." She swallowed hard, her hands trembling slightly. "I don't know what you saw," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "Don't play dumb," I snapped. "I saw your messages, I saw the folder. Tell me what the hell is going on." Her face crumpled, guilt washing over her. She looked like she was about to break, but she also looked scared. I felt a strange satisfaction knowing I had her cornered. I was lonely," she finally admitted, voice quivering. "Mark is just a friend." "It didn't mean anything." "Didn't mean anything," I echoed, voice rising. "Really, because it looks like it meant everything to you. Do you even realize how much you've hurt me?" She looked down, silent. I clenched my fists, feeling the adrenaline surge. I knew I had to be careful. I wanted her to realize this wasn't just about the betrayal. It was about the bigger picture. How could she think she could keep this secret forever? How could she think she could lie to me and get away with it? I took a deep breath, trying to stay composed. "You know what? I can't do this anymore. I need some space. You're going to leave today. I want you out of my house by tonight." Her eyes widened in shock. "What? You're serious?" "Dead serious," I said. "And don't bother to argue. I need to think, and I need to figure out what I'm going to do next." She looked like I'd punched her, but I didn't care. She'd already done the damage. I was just figuring out how to fix it. Or more accurately, how to make her regret it forever. Once she left the room, I started to carefully plan what came next. I knew I couldn't confront her directly again. That would give her too much power. Instead, I needed leverage, something concrete she couldn't deny. That's when it hit me. I had the proof, the images, and I'd use them, but not immediately. I wanted her to squirm, to realize I had control of her secrets. I went to my laptop and started digging into her phone backups, her social media accounts, anything that could give me more ammo. I needed everything. I wanted her to know that I wasn't just going to walk away. I was going to make her pay. Then I remembered the message from Mark. I'd seen enough to know that if I played my cards right, I could turn her own lies against her. I wasn't interested in some messy, public scene. I wanted her to feel it in her bones, to see her world crack apart little by little. I made a list of what I'd do. First, I'd keep quiet, gather more evidence, and wait for the right moment. Second, I'd start subtly turning her secrets against her, maybe involve her friends or online forums or even a private investigator if I had to. But first, she needed to leave. I wanted her to feel vulnerable, exposed, and most of all, powerless. As I watched her pack her things later that day, I felt a strange mixture of relief and anticipation. The game had begun, and I was already one step ahead. Every breath she took, every nervous glance, was a reminder she'd crossed a line she couldn't come back from, and I was ready to make sure she remembered it forever. I wonder how she'll react once she realizes her secrets aren't just hidden anymore, they're weaponized. The real fun is just beginning. By the time evening rolled around, Lisa was gone, and the house felt eerily quiet, like a carcass stripped bare. I sat on the couch, arms crossed, staring at the empty doorway where she'd just packed her bags. That's when it hit me. She might think she's free, but I had everything I needed now. The evidence was locked tight, and I'd be patient. I knew her routine, her weak spots. It was just a matter of time before she realized she'd lost control. I took a deep breath, feeling the adrenaline still humming in my veins. My head was racing faster than I could keep up with. I needed a plan, a way to make her suffer without crossing a line I'd regret later. Revenge was an art, delicate, precise, and ruthless. She'd betrayed my trust, but I wasn't some fool who'd wave a finger and walk away. No, I wanted her to see her world crumble from the inside out. First, I carefully backed up all her secret messages and photos onto an encrypted drive. I wanted her to see that I wasn't just threatening. I'd already won half the battle. Then, I started to think about how I could turn her own lies against her, push her into a corner she couldn't escape. I knew she'd be looking for me, trying to make sense of what was happening, but I had to be ready for her reactions. While she was packing, I remembered her phone sitting on the kitchen counter, still unlocked and blinking with new notifications. I kept my eyes on it from across the room. I knew I shouldn't, but I couldn't resist. I picked it up, unlocked it with the passcode I'd previously guessed, something she'd never think I'd figure out. I scrolled through her messages, looking for anything new, anything that could help me. That's when I saw a new conversation pop up, an exchange with Mark. It was recent, heated almost. She was telling him she'd get rid of the evidence, that she was scared of what I might do. That's when I knew I had her completely cornered. If I played this right, I could make her believe she was losing her mind while I stayed in control. I snapped a screenshot, saved it on my encrypted drive, and then deleted it from her phone. That way she'd never see that I was one step ahead. I took a deep breath, feeling a cold satisfaction creep in. Her own words, her secrets, they were bait. I just had to wait for the right moment to strike. Later that night, I sat at my desk, pulling out a small notebook. I jotted down every detail I could remember about her routines, her contacts, her habits. I needed to know what would shake her the most. The moment she'd realize her world was crashing down was coming, and I was going to be the one to deliver the blow. I also planted a few subtle clues around the house, an open email, a misplaced item, just enough to make her question her own memory without outright accusing her. It was psychological warfare, plain and simple. I wanted her to doubt herself, to feel vulnerable, to second-guess every move. By midnight, I was ready. The pieces were in place. I had her secrets, her weakness, and her fear. All I had to do now was wait. I knew she'd try to contact me soon, trying to explain, apologize, or maybe even deny everything. That's when I'd make my move. I looked at the time and smiled grimly. The game was about to change. She thought she was in control, but I was just getting started. The next steps weren't just about revenge. They were about making her see that trust once broken can never be repaired. And I was going to be the one to make her feel that pain, slowly, painfully, and permanently. The night stretched long, but my mind was sharp, my plan set. I'd wait until she reached out, and then I'd show her just how deep her lies had gone. She'd regret ever crossing that line. And when it's all over, she'd know exactly who held the power, me. By the time dawn broke, I'd already mapped out my next move. The waiting game was the hardest part. Every hour felt like an eternity. I kept replaying her reactions in my head, imagining her waking up and realizing her carefully constructed world was starting to fall apart. She had no idea I'd already turned her own secrets into my weapons. And the best part, she still thought she was in control. I stayed quiet, observing through sporadic messages that I secretly sent her. Every text was designed to keep her nervous, to make her second-guess herself. I threw in little hints. Did you forget something? Or careful who you trust now. I wanted her paranoid, vulnerable. She was so used to being in charge, but now she was walking on eggshells, and I loved every minute of it. Her reaction came sooner than I expected. One afternoon, I received a message from her, trembling with guilt and fear. "Can we talk? I need to explain." I read it with a slow, cruel smile. She wanted to fix things, but she had no idea I was already 2 steps ahead. I responded casually, "Sure, come over tonight. We need to talk properly." That evening, she showed up at my house looking nervous, eyes darting around like a thief caught in the act. I prepared a small, cold room, no distractions, no comfort, just the perfect setting to make her feel small and exposed. I sat across from her, calm, calculating. Her hands fidgeted and she kept trying to meet my gaze, but I saw the fear behind her eyes. "Lisa," I started, voice steady, "you thought I wouldn't find out, that I'd never see the truth. But I did. Every message, every secret you thought was safe, I've got it all." Her face paled and she opened her mouth to speak, but I raised a hand to stop her. "Don't bother. You're not going to talk your way out of this. The truth is you betrayed me, lied to my face, and thought you could get away with it. Well, guess what? I've got your little folder, your pictures, your conversations, everything." She looked like she wanted to cry, but I was beyond caring. I leaned forward, voice low and menacing. "You're done, Lisa. You're leaving tonight, and I want you to understand. You're never getting back what we had." Not because I don't want to, but because I can't trust you anymore. Her voice cracked. Please, I didn't mean for it to happen. I was lonely and Mark. Stop, I snapped. Your excuses are worthless. You crossed a line and I'm not the kind of guy who forgets. When I think about all those late-night messages, all those promises you made to him while you were supposed to be with me, I can't even look at you the same. Her eyes welled with tears, but I kept going. I've already started sharing your secrets, Lisa. With a few trusted friends, people I know who can. Make sure your reputation suffers. Not in some petty way, this is about making you understand what betrayal really costs. That stunned her. She stared, mouth dry, blinking rapidly. You wouldn't do that. Oh, I would, I said coldly. And I will. You're going to leave tonight and I'll make sure your world falls apart if you ever try to come back. You want to keep lying, keep hiding, fine. I'll be the one to remind you what it feels like to be completely exposed. She looked defeated, her shoulders slumping. Please, she begged, give me another chance. I shook my head. There are no second chances after this. You made your choices, and I'll be the one to make sure you regret them. I watched her leave that night, walking out of my house with tears streaked on her face, clutching her bag like it was the last thing she had left. I stayed inside, feeling a strange calm settle over me. The ball was in motion now. She had no idea what was coming next. I started to prepare everything for the final stage. I'd already alerted a couple of friends I trusted, people who knew about her secret life and were ready to help. I set up a meeting with a private investigator I'd hired, just to verify the last details, make sure I had the full picture. Now I just had to wait for her to call, to freak out, to try and fix her mess. That's when I'd really strike. The moment she realized her carefully curated secret world was about to unravel completely, that's when I'd show her how much she'd underestimated me. I sat back and took a long breath. No more surprises. I was about to make her regret ever crossing that line. And once I was done, she'd have no choice but to face the reality. She'd lost me and she'd lost control. The waiting was almost unbearable. Every hour felt like a lifetime. I kept refreshing my phone, watching for her, waiting for her to crack, to try to reach out, to make a move. I knew she'd be panicked, desperate. That's what I wanted. I had already set the stage. All I needed now was for her to make the first mistake. It was late the next evening when I finally got her call. I saw the incoming number and felt my stomach tight. My fingers hesitated over the screen, then I answered with a low, cold voice. Lisa. Her voice was trembling, almost unrecognizable from the confident woman I once known. Please, she whispered, can we meet? I need to talk. I can't do this over the phone. I didn't reply immediately. I let her sweat. Fine, I said finally. Come to the old warehouse on 7th Street at midnight. Be alone. She hesitated, then agreed. I knew she'd try to bring someone or maybe run away altogether, but I wasn't going to let her. Not yet. The hour crept by slowly. I parked across from the warehouse, hidden in shadows, watching the entrance. I told her to come alone, but I knew she'd try to bring backup. I didn't care. I had all the evidence I needed, her digital secrets, her lies, her weaknesses, and I was ready. At exactly midnight, I saw her silhouette approach. She looked nervous, clutching her purse like a lifeline. As she got closer, I stepped out of the shadows. Thought you never come, I said softly. She jumped, eyes wide with fear. Please, she whispered. I did. Wanted to come to this. I want to make it right. I smiled coldly, one hand in my pocket, the other gesturing to the door. Let's talk, but know this, I've already told everyone who needs to know. Your secret's out. The only thing left is how much you're going to suffer for it. She looked like she was about to cry. Her lips trembled. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said. I was stupid. I was lonely. Please just don't ruin me. I stepped closer, voice low and steady. Too late for that. You crossed the line, Lisa. And now I'm going to make sure you remember it forever. I pulled out the encrypted drive, showing her the proof I'd collected, the screenshots, the photos, the chat logs. This is just the beginning. Her eyes filled with tears. You're going to destroy me over some stupid messages. Stupid. I repeated, voice sharp. You think betrayal is stupid. You think hiding behind a fake smile and a pretty face doesn't have consequences. This isn't about some petty revenge. It's about clearing my name from the lies you spun. She looked at the ground, trembling. I'm sorry, she whispered. I was stupid, I was weak. Can't we just forget it, start over? I shook my head slowly. No, you don't get to start over after this. You made your choice, now I'm making mine. I pressed the button on the drive. This goes out tomorrow, everyone will know, and you'll be lucky if that's all that happens. She stared at me, eyes haunted. Please, she begged again. I'll do anything, anything. I interrupted, voice icy. Then I suggest you leave, now. Without a word, she turned and fled into the night. I watched her disappear into the shadows, feeling a strange mixture of satisfaction and emptiness. I'd finally taken control and her secrets were exposed. Her world was crumbling. I knew the fallout would be messy. People would talk, friends would desert her, and her reputation would never recover. That was the point. She wanted to hide her lies behind her pretty face, but I just ripped that mask off with one simple act. Now she'd have to live with what she'd done. As I walked back to my car, I felt a weight lift. The game was over. I'd made her pay for her betrayal, and I'd done it without violence, just cold, calculated precision. That's what revenge should be, deliberate, unambiguous, complete. I paused, looking at the dark night sky, and knew one thing for sure: I'd never trust her again, and she'd never forget what I'd done. The truth was out now, and she'd have to face the consequences. The days that followed were a blur. My phone kept buzzing with notifications, people talking about her, sharing the screenshots I had leaked, her reputation tumbling down faster than I could have imagined. I stayed out of the mess, watching her world crumble from a distance. It was the kind of satisfaction that tastes bitter at first, but I had no regrets. She pushed me to this point, pushed me away, lied, betrayed, all for some fleeting affair. I made sure she knew I was in control. Every time she reached out, I ignored her. When she showed up at my workplace, begging for a chance, I simply handed her a folder, one I'd prepared, filled with everything. Her face went pale as she saw the evidence, and I saw the realization dawn in her eyes. She had no way back. The trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. I finally went to my lawyer and filed for divorce. I kept my tone cold and clear, no emotional speeches, no pleading, just facts. I handed over the evidence and we drew up the papers. When I handed her the final copy, she looked at me with tears streaming down her face. "Is this really happening?" she whispered, voice trembling. "It is," I said quietly, watching her try to grasp the reality. "You broke the rules, Lisa. You made your choices. Now you face the consequences. Just remember, I warned you." She sank to her knees, clutching her face. "Please, I'm sorry. I'll do anything." "Sorry doesn't cut it," I cut her off. "You lied to me for years. You nearly destroyed what we had, and now you're out of my life." I turned away, feeling a strange calm settle over me. For the first time in a long while, I felt free. No more secrets, no more lies, just justice, slow, deliberate, and final. As I walked out of the courthouse, I realized I'd been given a second chance. Not to rebuild what was lost, but to start fresh, without her shadow looming over me. I knew I'd carry the scars of this betrayal, but I also knew I'd come out stronger. And to anyone reading this, I'd say this: trust is fragile. Once broken, it's almost impossible to repair. But sometimes the only way to heal is to confront the truth head-on. Be ruthless, be smart, and never let betrayal slide. Because in the end, justice isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming your life.